Letting the fish through, Tabin seriously acknowledged that the little girl in front of him was indeed the fish's vase. Trung Lindong had disappeared. No longer blinded by the glass partition or having to grope down to the rim of the vase that imprisoned her was gone. All that needs to be done is to take one step into the open sea. Will that small fish dare to risk sticking its head out into the big sea that it longs for? The answer finally appeared on the surprised and bewildered faces of Tiu Fonghu and his red-haired friend. On the ring, Trung Lin clenched her hands and eyes firmly, without any trace of her cowardly and fearful appearance like before. Her aura shines in all four directions. That fish was not a carp and still turned into a dragon. No matter how stupid Tiu Fonghu was, he felt a cold aura spreading over his body, completely different from the timid trash girl just now, making him uncomfortably curl his knuckles while cursing that he would give it to China. Lindong's eyes are so bright. The first act, the training and psychological manipulation of the beast, begins. Each side uses its own energy to reduce aggression as well as pump into its head the idea of being obedient and submissive. Smirking arrogantly, Tiu Fonghu often knew that most of the wild pets that were still alive and came to this area were due to failure in the domestication step in the heavenly area, so they were eliminated to this place. Therefore, they have been domesticated many times. It is okay to call this group old because due to many collisions, they have developed patience with a familiar beast. Only people who often come to the area know this, but Tiu Fonghu wants to use the advantage of being a truck driver here to defeat the overwhelming Lindong. Little did she know that at that moment, she had gently let out the 3 words "I was done." The wild beast Lamb Deep stood behind her for her to lean on comfortably, and was rewarded with a piece of rib meat to nibble comfortably. Tiu Fonghu could not have expected this cheap little girl to do it so quickly, especially the way Trung Lin just did was clearly aimed at the familiar level of the pet's moves, making him even more unable to believe his eyes. Standing from afar with red hair smiling, this shallow guy doesn't know anything. Why doesn't Trung Lindong know that basic thing? Tiu Fonghu was a few minutes slower but finally finished. His mouth said next was the second training round. He just blinked at Tu Sin below and secretly did something. Quietly reaching the foot of the stage and pressing the green button, Tabin quickly realized that the switch Tu Sin had just touched was to activate the electric current running in the arena fence. The railings of the entire arena were quietly electrified, perhaps as a trick so that when two animals fighting each other bumped into the railings, they would be electrocuted, leading to loss. Tabin hurriedly intended to use his spiritual energy to send a voice message to remind Trung Lindong. Unexpectedly, seeing her calmly standing next to the training warehouse picking up an earthy herb, Tabin smiled with satisfaction and realized that he had thought too much. This girl did not need his help. After training, the third match began immediately with the proactive attack of the violent beast Tong Hung rushing headlong into the land-deep beast, following the command of Lindong on the opposite side. Using lightning strikes and his lightning speed, Tong Hung rammed his head and body straight into the belly of the green lizard, pushing it backwards and then hitting the electric fence. The sound of high-voltage electricity echoed loudly, soon sending energy throughout the bodies of the two pet beasts who were fighting each other. The situation is currently going in the desired direction of Tiu Fonghu. He cannot be told to keep his mouth shut and not laugh. He knows very well that Tong Hung has completed the process of transforming a part of his body into the element of lightning. I can't withstand the electric current from the fence, so I use this trick. It turned out that he knew this place had electricity, so he was so confident. The red hair was about to curse the guy in front of him, but Tabin smiled comfortably. This guy's crowing is so loud, it's not like only the lightning attribute can resist electric charge. On the field, the lamb-deep beast grew large chunks of lava-type Maijop. Its skin also turned brown and hard, different from the current, and the current left it unharmed. To be more precise, its shell conducts all the electric charge underground, without being affected by electricity on its body. It took the opportunity to proudly swing its lava pan and bright eyes, easily blowing a blow at Tong Hung's head, causing it to crash to the floor, bringing a stunning victory to Trung Lindong. The victory was so clearly overwhelming that Tiu Fonghu glanced at him and saw that there was no admiration at all. Trung Lindong scowled and reminded him that the victory belonged to him. According to the contract, the students of that Earth Temple class will be handed over to us. Here we say goodbye and we will never see each other again. Tm2 Sin was stunned, not understanding that Tiu Fonghu lost so simply. Only the other student hugged his skinny body and smiled as he walked past Trung Lin Dong. As a human being, who would want to be trampled on like that? Not to mention this girl has a reputation in the Dia2 area specializing in helping people like him improve. If she can return there honestly and righteously, it will definitely be good. Then in this place for the gods to trample on. Tabin crossed his arms and said nothing, but the triumphant look on his face said it all that he had divine foresight to let Trung Lin Dong personally defeat these trashes. The red-haired girl's cheers made Tiu Fonghu more and more angry. He was sweating and thinking that there was no way he could lose to a girl who still smelled of milk. And in the presence of others, losing face and not letting it go, Tiu Fonghu secretly pulled out a stick, absolutely not allowing himself to be underestimated, so he wanted to hit her from behind Trung Lin Dong. The rising hatred made him not know what was right and what was wrong. How could Tabin leave him alone when he did such a despicable thing? A glance sparked with energy and easily twisted Fonghu's arm, but strangely, a pet monkey-like beast jumped out from nowhere and pinned him to the floor. Not Tabin's pet, he let his energy dissipate and looked behind him in surprise, wanting to see who it was. A red-haired man leads a brazen gang that everyone despises and glares at the cowardly name Tiu Fonghu. He scorns and curses when he loses and likes to attack secretly. No matter how much he lives with a dog, he always leaves room for the dog. What's wrong with all of it? He looks like he came from the Dia2 area, but he seems to be much older than the students here, and his demeanor is also confident like I'm very familiar with. Sure enough, the girl standing next to her happily called her senior, making Tabin ask again, "Is this from Theme 2 class?" Nodding his head to indicate that he was indeed a senior but not in Theme 2's class. The girl who told me this was the oldest among the Dia2 class students, called the boss of this area. Her voice whispered, no one knew this brother's real age, everyone called him senior because no one knew how many years he had studied at school. Tiu Fonghu was pinned on the ground, his stubborn face clearly exposed, his mouth threatening the 8th grade class. The natural word is no longer there, the supply of pet animals only comes from us 7th graders. If you dare to touch me, the 4th class's supply of pet beasts will be interrupted and it will be your turn to eat. Senior, think carefully, I am the young master of the Tiu family, I can do what I say. If he was rude, he would be slapped. Without waiting for his master to speak, the Monkey King rode on Tiu Fonghu's body and gave him a slap on the face, making him very angry, but he still had to endure it. Only his mouth kept cursing his grandmother, "Don't you dare. Beat me? Don't you dare again?" The red-haired senior raised his head and looked at the indifferent Chili lying on the ground, still not knowing what to do, reminding him that Tiu Dong used to help students in the local temple area a lot. In this place, the policy is to use everything you can to take advantage of, but you can still distinguish between right and wrong without needing Mr. Fonghu to teach you. By the way, this time we caught the unreasonable name of the family. This guy named Tiu gave the Monkey King a passionate massage from head to toe. By the way, he took revenge for the many people of the Dia2 class whose faces were all puffy because of this brat's attention. Tm2 Sin wanted to save his friend but could not. At this point, only Tiu Fonghu knelt down and begged for himself. He clasped his hands in the water, tried to curl his mouth on his puffy face and apologized. "Senior, I was wrong. I won't dare anymore, please forgive me. Then get the fuck out of here and hurry up for me." Tm2 Sin quickly took his friend out of this place, trying to go quickly because behind him his curse still echoed. "In the future, if you ever step foot into the local temple area and let me see it, don't blame me. Once in, I'll fight once to remember." The Monkey King jumped up and threatened to follow his master's words, making Tm2 Sin turn pale in fear. "Besides taking my friend out and saying anything, I'm afraid staying here will ruin both of us." He went up to thank his senior for helping him avoid trouble. He simply said nothing and then went to Trung Lin Dong to thank her. Thanks to her teachings, he was able to progress so quickly, and saving him every time was nothing. Trung Lin Dong was not very happy thinking about this. Teasing grade 4 Tiu Fonghu, surely with that tit-for-tat personality, he will find a way not to carry the pet source to the local temple area anymore. The more we talk about Trung Lin Dong, the more it withers. If our 8th grade pet resources are still available, we can still divide apart and bring them here for everyone to use. The red hair laughed and said this girl worries too much. The supply of pet animals in the area is so limited that it doesn't take a day or two to get used to it. Bare feet are not afraid of torn shoes. No matter what that guide is to this local temple, he is not afraid. Speaking of this, he cheerfully laughed and told Trung Lin Dong, if you fail the class division test, don't be shy. Let's go down to the temple. I've saved some delicious places with good feng shui for you. Trung Lin Dong innocently asked again, so I had to let my friend remind me to calm down. While you're at your peak, what's it like to keep talking about the misfortune of being pushed down to the Earth Temple class? Waiting for the two sides to finish their social interaction, Bin then interjected and asked a question that had no beginning or end, are you from the local class rich? Asking how many people still have the answer, but Bin directly asked about the person's financial ability. No wonder the red hair didn't glance over to evaluate him. He crossed his arms and looked at Bin and asked him what he wanted to know, but without any politeness, Bin went straight in and said that he was a normal pet trader like everyone else. I've been listening to people talk for a while now. It seems like the Dia 2 market has potential, so I just want to do a little research. If so, the senior would not hesitate to tell him that a person who can enter the academy to train pets and learn training techniques must surely have a well-off family. Being divided into the local classes due to lack of achievement or lack of power or status, so it can be said that the person in one class has no talent or no money. But if you want to take advantage of this, I still advise you to ignore it because this money is all donated to the general purpose. Raise your big hand to threaten. If you want to do bad things and fall into my hands, you will end up like Fonghu just now. Just saying a few words already seemed to threaten people. Trung Lin Dong had to quickly speak up to clear his misunderstanding. Boss Hua has saved me several times, he's not a bad person, don't doubt him like that. Bin doesn't care much, said Trung Lin Dong frankly. As the store owner, I just want to see if people here can afford to pay for my pet rental service. Trung Lin Dong mumbled along to what he said, asking again if you mean renting pets, is there a way to get pets? Innocent words like this made the senior ignore his doubts and asked, breathily, that he didn't go to this school, so he didn't understand? School pets are sold exclusively by the school. Unless they have a relationship with the school, they cannot be transported inside. Having met the right person with the information, Bin added, as long as there is a storefront, I can bring my pets there. Not to mention the number of his stores is not limited in terms of rental, and there are all levels and high and low quality for tenants to choose from. The senior frowned and thought, if there really was a way to solve the problem of the supply of pet animals, it would be like a shower on the already cracked land. But why does he have such a confident look on his lips? The senior was curious and asked what Wei Bin was doing and he wanted to hear. But in the past he didn't like to talk before doing anything, he just smiled and said it was a secret that couldn't be revealed. Anyway, I'll try with you guys, if it doesn't work then there's nothing to lose, right? It makes sense, the senior said he would take Bin to Manhwa Business Street of the local temple area. Arriving at that location, I immediately met the first person who was full, no selling, baby, from the position of the elderly bald shop owner waving a fan in front of the sunbathing porch. The senior bowed respectfully and said, sir, if this shop can't be sold, it can be rented out, just give me a price. But he still did not waver, lying down waving his fan and repeating that it was not possible to rent. This is the shop passed down from my grandfather. As soon as I entered, I was refused. Bin glanced over and asked if this was the Manhwa business street with that beautiful name. There's just an old man selling snacks and nothing more, he can't even persuade him. Bin glanced over, making his senior confused, what the hell boss couldn't say to people like that. Raising his hand and scratching his head hesitantly, he muttered that he could force anyone to force him, but how could he bully an old person, so just let him do it. Bin opened his watch and briefly told Gihan VM about the situation, asking him to solve this matter for him. There was a strong yes, and just a few minutes later a skyscraper appeared right before our eyes. Bin showed that image to the old man and said that this was the first store in the Longjiang city base area. 1 year's rent is enough for you to live for several generations. Would you change it? Realizing that what Bin said was true, he jumped up and told him to change immediately. The contract is already prepared, just sign it and you're done. Seeing things change so quickly, the seniors could only gasp in surprise. It's true that relationship is second best to money. This kid really knows how to control money. It's not possible that it's the pet business that makes so much money. Suddenly remembering, the senior asked Bin what he was planning to do. Renting a shop with a huge canopy right in front of the door? Half of the feng shui has been covered. Where is it? He didn't answer but walked straight into the store, secretly thinking that after signing the contract, this place was already his. Mentally dialing the system, Bin shared with him that he was going to transform the place into a branch of a mischievous pet store that was located in this city. With a smile on his face and everything going according to plan, Bin decided to start the chaotic spiritual pond next. Feng Hu turned his bruised face back to the natural temple area and immediately rushed into the 4th grade instructor's room. Seeing the traces, the teacher immediately asked who did it. He was waiting to be able to snitch that the local class did it himself, and also criticized them for being extremely undisciplined and liking to bully others. Causing aggression to the local class, Mr. Su looked up and asked why those people were attacking the theme class. Almost able to act out the scene where 2 lines of unjust tears fell, Feng Hu sadly said, "I don't know, teacher. I was suddenly beaten on my way to the local temple. They also said that if they meet me once in the future, they will hit me once, and the teacher must seek justice for me. This teacher is not a child, his clothes are not damaged, only his face is scratched." It was obvious that he was being beaten because he was aggressive towards people, but the local class was not a pack of wild dogs that rushed out to bite people every time they saw someone. But thinking about it, Feng Hu's Tiu family is one of the big families in the city. If he was willing to help this student, perhaps a famous family would come to help in the future. Considering the pros and cons, beating the puppies in the local temple area is not too difficult. Thinking so, he told me to rest assured, tomorrow I will definitely get justice for you and punish them appropriately. Tiu Feng Hu smiled and lost his victim's color. He happily thanked the instructor and promised to send a gift later. As soon as he waved his hand for him to leave, Mr. Su opened the clock to summon images of Theme 2 class teachers discussing. This teacher seems to be an influential person. Briefly, the work of handling pets for the entire school in the next half year will be in charge of Class 4 Theme 2. They immediately agreed to Mr. Su's request. Transporting pet animals was also a heavy job. Normally students were not passionate about this. Another week, rows of vehicles from the Theme 2 class drove one after another to the local temple area, dumping a pile of dead or debilitated pets, accumulating into a tall pile that looked like a pile of trash. But this time, they didn't let the students dig to find usable things, but let pet animals that spit fire stand in all directions and burn everything as soon as they landed on the site. A few more of Mr. Su's subordinates blatantly appeared to drag away the pet piglet of the student of the Earth Temple class, causing him to exclaim discontentedly, "What are you basing on to take my pet?" The situation was tense, and not knowing what mistake he had committed, the local teacher, Mr. Loi, and his student knelt down in front of the 4th grade Theme 2 group, begging Teacher Su to quickly tell them to stop. The teacher training conference is about to open, and the people of the Teacher Training Association will select students with the best achievements to join the training association. Is this any different from burning students' test papers just 1 month before the entrance exam? Teacher Su clasped his hands as if he didn't see the other teacher pleading with him. He only indifferently asked the people who injured my student to still ask for achievements. What is Tiu Feng Hu's injury? The student was seen leaning against Mr. Loi's back and cursing without any hesitation, saying it was because his student maliciously injured me. Quickly tell them to come and pay for their sins, otherwise this matter won't end. Of course, old Loi had never heard of a student in the geomancy class being aggressive with the theme class. He asked in surprise why my student could hurt him. Then he scowled at the group of students behind him and asked who it was. So quickly bring them here. But they were just people who had been affected. They all shook their heads and said they didn't know what Tiu Fanghao was talking about. It looked like these guys were playing a stupid game with me. He angrily gritted his teeth and cursed. Frankly speaking, it's your seniors who do it. Who else comes here? Having said that, Fang Hu approached and grabbed the man's collar, raised his fist impatiently and told him to quickly call him out here. If you're still stubborn, then you'll fight instead and see how long you can hold out. Just in time, the red-haired senior staying in the classroom in the area's legend carried a large cardboard box passing by. Seeing Mr. Loy and his students kneeling in front of others, he felt very strange, so he asked, "What are you doing? Why don't you go to class?" Seeing that the name of the person Tiu Fanghu mentioned was here, Mr. Loy angrily pointed at him and scolded him. How dare you tease a student in the Theme 2 class like that? They even brought the instructors here to question me. Come over here quickly. Teacher Loy's words became more and more harsh, insisting that the red hair confess his crime. Otherwise the future of the entire local temple class would be ruined. Determining the target of revenge on Tiu Fanghu's subordinates, each person took a weapon and advanced. He smirked arrogantly, now that the crowd still had his back, extremely comfortable and ready to let the red hair know what the outcome would be if he dared to offend him. The groan of the other student whose shirt was grabbed made his red hair very dirty. He briefly spit out the words, "Tiu Fanghao, you are really despicable." His subordinates rushed over and wanted to beat the red hair. Looking at how easy it is to bully people, he aimed his body and rushed forward, punching the nearest guy in the face, still holding the big box on his shoulder and not letting go. They relied on the crowd to bully the weak, not allowing the red hair to move easily, diving with a big stick on their head to straighten their posture. There was no need to give in to those bastards. The red hair put down the cardboard box and saw 3 pet beasts of 3 different species jump out from inside and attack the group immediately. The smile disappeared from Tiu Fanghu's face. Did that box actually contain pets? Even Mr. Loy was surprised. There were 3 of them in there, so he asked in surprise, "Where did you get these pets?" As if waiting for this important question for a long time, the red-haired man smiled mischievously, saying that this time is very different from the old times, teacher. Now we don't need to look at their faces anymore. The temple area now has better quality pets. Of course, the first unhappy person was Tiu Fanghu. He sounded like he was fighting in the clear sky. I tried to wake up and warn Teacher Su to give him the right to put the pet in the hands of Class 4 to humiliate him, but now they say they have a pet to get what they want. Seeing that the old man didn't know anything, the red-haired teacher led the teacher to Manhwa Business Street in the local temple area. Seeing the small shop right on the corner of the street now full of students waiting in line to receive pets. As if instead of a store sign, the heavenly dragon dog rested its feet and snored next to it while advertising this place. Its furry head was higher than the roof of the store, looking like a statue cast in gold that never moved. In front of the store, local students walked back and forth with happy faces, each holding something related to a pet. It could be an egg or it could be a baby. Every time I go to the store, I get something useful and leave. Seeing that the situation is positive, the old man should laugh like a child first. It's true that everyone has a pet in their hands. Tiu Fanghu frowned unhappily, wondering where he got the resources to pet such a strong beast. It's impossible for a pet shop to do business in a restricted area. Smiling confidently, he advised his younger brother to open his eyes. We really have a pet shop here. And it's not just buying, selling and lending pets. Inside the store there are also all kinds of strange plants to make food for pets. They emitted a shimmering, inviting light, making a guy like Tiu Fanghu, who only knew how to bully people, realize that the high-class pet food of the Theme 2 area's professional training class had actually appeared here. The red-haired girl folded her arms and kindly introduced that this pile of food and pets could be bought at the same price as the third-class market and the quality was not inferior to the first or second class anywhere outside. Old Loy was very excited. He didn't ask where this shop came from. He just wanted the students to have pets so they wouldn't have to worry about the upcoming entrance exam. Praise for praise that this shop owner is indeed a virtuous person, coming to this place to do business rather than helping the local situation. Tiu Fonghu didn't make people happy for a few seconds. He pointed in that direction and told the teacher that there was definitely a problem with the store. Pets and food provided in the school must be registered, but they don't know, it must be illegal trading. With Master Su's approval, he aggressively called someone to immediately destroy this store and confiscate the illegally smuggled pets. The crowd of people flocked into the noisy store, causing Tabin's golden-haired dog, who was sleeping, to open his eyes to see what was going on. Its golden eyes detected that everyone was approaching his boss's store with murderous intent, and soon stood up, making everyone startled. Just now, Thien Long Kuyan was no different from the stone lion statue that people placed in front of their house, but now there was a sudden change and he jumped up and roared loudly, showing his authority clearly in the faces of the crowd, causing them to quickly back away in fear. Tiu Fonghu covered his ears tightly, stammering how a dog beast could make a dragon's roar. Paying attention to its unique, sparkling golden fur color, in the end, where did the divine come from that could radiate such an amazing aura? The person capable of answering those questions was called by the dragon's scream to appear at the door. The light inside was not as clear as outside. At first people only saw dark shadows and faint voices. What color was going on outside? Tiu Fonghu realized that it was the person who covered for those people to beat him, confused and raised his head to curse. But Tabin didn't care at all. His lips even smiled, asking you guys to surround my watchdog. What are you doing? Thien Long Kuyan's feet stomped on the ground, sending the noisy, well-mannered crowd of people back quickly to the sides. Under its feet, they looked like a swarm of ants running around screaming dog songs that sounded like dragon sounds. Is that a dog pretending to be a dragon or a dog pretending to be a civet? Quickly retreat or else he will kill you all. Tiu Fonghu saw the situation and ran away without fighting. He looked bitterly at the teacher and muttered curses that these scoundrels were the only dogs that couldn't be beaten, they were just strange dogs. Professor, please send your guards out. Tabin leisurely walked in front of the heavenly dragon dog that was radiating a dazzling yellow light, calmly shouting, "Could it be that you guys can't switch to a bigger game when you play the small game?" The teacher silently observed, not hastily like the student, silently evaluating this dragon dog. At first glance, he had a vague feeling like he was looking at a royal beast, and he had never seen this person in the dragon school before. Let's review the information we know. Rumor has it that only people in the Association of Trainers and Trainers have the secret method to control a king beast like this. Regardless of strength or background, he is definitely not an easy person to mess with. It is true that the professor has experience in looking at people, and also has experience in turning their faces. Teacher Su smiled wryly with a gentle look that was unique in the world. The story was that I received a report from my student who was maliciously beaten at the local temple area, so I came to reconcile. I wonder if you can give an explanation? How could Tiu Fonghu resist this 51st expression of the teacher that kept appearing, making the redhead laugh like crazy? Professor History, didn't you look very arrogant just now? Why is it suddenly so strange to be so quiet now? Tiu Fonghu didn't know before or after, seeing that his teacher was humbled and unwilling. He looked fiercely at the red hair as if he wanted to rush over and beat him. Trung Lin Dong stood not far away watching, quietly telling the other boy not to be afraid. Boss Hua Kwang would protect him. Let's go over there and explain the story to the 4th grade history teacher. Seeing Thien Long Kuyan lying like a watchdog in front of the store, anyone with a brain automatically knows that he is not someone who can be touched lightly. But Tiu Fonghu didn't know if his brain was affected under that bandage. He curled his mouth as someone who was interested in that bunch of brats. No matter how much he explained, it was useless. Every year our Tiu family donates so much money to the school. The history professor will definitely preside over justice for me, Fonghu. He was looking forward to a fierce battle or enlightening lesson from the teacher. Who would have thought that with that same apricot face, Professor History didn't bother to listen to the explanation. He already made a reasonable conclusion himself. Both sides were beaten, it's fair, everyone go home happy and not angry. Turning to Tiu Fonghu who was still gaping, Teacher Su also sternly reminded his student that after the failed sneak attack, he still owed them an apology. This kid couldn't catch the teacher's signal. He opened his mouth to complain, wondering why the teacher would help them like that. In the end, who was the teacher's student, naturally open-minded like a virtuous teacher with 9 marks. Professor History pointed to the sky and explained in a monotone voice. This is not a matter of who is the student that the teacher defends, who. This is a matter of fairness and justice. Even if the Heavenly King makes a mistake, he must admit it and apologize. Bin stood listening to people talk, explaining it better than explaining the theory and then kicking the little kid next to him. In addition to apologizing, Tu Fonghu will refund all medical expenses of the student who was beaten. I wonder if the two of you are satisfied with this reconciliation plan or not? Trung Lin Dong and the other boy answered in unison. They were not aggressive people after all. This result was already very good. But he's not warm, what's with his mouth? The red-haired senior was very amused, laughing and saying, why didn't you listen to the teacher? Please apologize quickly. Tu Fonghu raised his fist at him, scowled and cursed back, insulting me and still wanting me to apologize? It almost made people laugh out loud. Are we just reporting what you did and calling it insulting? Tu Fonghu was not willing, seeing that Professor Su's actions were of no use. He mumbled rather than dreaming. He waited and saw. Checking the watch on his wrist, he personally used the family member. As soon as the signal was sent, he raised his hand and shouted. No one was there, and immediately saw 3 silhouettes from behind rushing forward as fast as lightning. The effect is exactly like a sailor with a disguised face transforming, which is the Tu family's advantage. 3 assassins wearing white clan uniforms followed in formation in front of Fonghu, firmly asking, Young master, why did you summon us? They exuded dark red energy. They were indeed experts, so they naturally believed so. My eyes were fixed on those who my young master called a group of rats who dared to insult me in front of everyone. Before the fight started, the Earth class teacher raised his face to the sky and shouted loudly. Isn't that like flying in the air? The 3 of them were definitely experts at that title level. The experts of the Tu family are indeed all well-trained people. If they really took action, this local temple area would probably be flattened. Seeing that things were slipping out of his control, Professor History gently reminded him that anything that could be ignored should be ignored. People had also agreed to reconcile, so he thought carefully. But being naturally aggressive, Tu Fonghu shook his head and kept saying that he couldn't swallow this anger. You must see blood flowing into a river to be satisfied. By the way, he also enticed Teacher Su to cooperate with him. With the addition of that monster dog teacher, he was definitely not an opponent. After all, Trung Lin Dong is just a little girl still in school. Seeing a decorated master come here, something bad must happen. She is afraid that if more people come to help, she will lose her life. The red hair mumbles that that's the end, right? So everything poured into the river, but no one saw Bin's extremely calm face. These 3 names are just shrimps sitting on the edge of the shrimp. The real master is still up there. Hearing what he said, the 2 young men raised their necks in surprise, wondering if that was not enough. Why is there more? Sure enough, up in the air, there was a figure emitting a stream of blue energy, seeing that he had finally been discovered. Tu Tu, the elder of the Tu family's staff, laughed out loud in praise but smelled of intimidation. You were able to detect the presence of the old man, it's commendable. Tu Fonghu did not expect that Grandfather Tu would appear at this time. His eyes widened and he looked very scared of this person. His mouth kept stammering, why did he come here? Come see what else you have to say. He scowled at the kid below who dared to arbitrarily mobilize the Tu family's forbidden army under the old man's eyes. Do you think the old man is blind? Tu Tu's stream of power from high above overwhelmed the little boy standing on the ground. He was so scared that his mouth froze. Angrily pointing at the group of people, Tu Fonghu blamed this group of people to bully his child. The injuries on my body were all caused by them. Even the instructor doesn't care, so that's all I can do. You have to get justice for me. The red hair is very spicy, standing on the other side cursing back. This guy really changed white instead of black. He was clearly the one who made the first move. Bin did not participate in the argument, but suddenly the system that had not appeared for a long time jumped out in front of him to show him. Check to see that the branch store's position is being threatened. If left like that, it will be difficult to gain a foothold here. Declaring the branch's mission, the host should build a reputation in this city. Rewards: 50% discount coupon for Lin Tri Mixed Team. Mission duration 1 month. Penalty for failure: reduces host rating by 5 points. Currently, the completion progress is 12/100ths. It's been a long time since I saw the mission, but Tabin's eyes immediately fell on the 50% discount coupon. It's true that even if you're the boss, you still love discounted items. He thought that each level 3 cultivation of Lin Tri cost up to 1000 energy, and if reduced by 50%, it would save up to 500 points. Although the current profit is not high, what if it will have some magical effect after upgrading to Lin Tri? Thinking ahead, Tabin had just received the mission for 1 second when the ground suddenly shook violently like an earthquake. Everything changed violently, but danger fell from the sky. It was Tiutu's hand-shaped giant star that launched an attack and transformed, covering the light above to threaten those below who would dare to bully the Tiu family. His eyes and whole body emitted blue light, making electric heat sounds. His hands were outstretched, ready to flatten the person below, causing Tiu Fanghu to stand and laugh happily. Even though he mobilized troops before notifying the leader, on the outside he was still the young master of the Tiu family. As long as the fourth grandfather took action, everything here could be said to be as smooth as Sunsel. After all, he is a genius who has trained both Master Trainer and Battle Pet Master to level 9. Not to mention Tiutu is also the strongest person in the Tiu family in the past 100 years, 10 points more confident. The local teacher is a small-minded person, and usually has to beg a lot to have some resources for his students to use. Now, seeing Tiutu's figure above, he quickly raised his eyes and begged the old senior to slowly say something. Please listen to our explanation first. No, baby, Tiutu violently slammed his fist, bringing the star down with him. I'm here to show off the Tiu family's authority. Just let these flies get one, and if they're still alive, there's no problem continuing. Of course, from below, a golden dragon angrily looked at Tiutu. It looked very similar to the color of Tabin's VIP Pro Dog monster, but this shape was truly that of a dragon. The appearance of the old Dragon King was so sudden that no one noticed it until the star controller shattered. The Tiu family's 2 grandchildren roared in disbelief. Isn't that because the giant dog transformed into a dog? In the end, it was a dog pretending to be a dragon or a dragon pretending to be a dog. Honestly speaking, people are dogs that have inherited dragon power. In addition, Tabin was determined to do his duty, shouting in a slow voice. He was old but not wise. He dared to rely on the strong to bully the weak. He deserved to be beaten. After finishing the sentence, the dragon violently whipped the sharp claws of Tiutu's forelimbs and head, causing him to let out a howl. Under the dragon's impact, Tiutu looked like a toy subjected to light whipping. After being hit, his body fell to the ground with a fierce thud. The audience saw nothing more than a streak of green light being slammed to the ground. Tiu Fanghu shouted in confusion, Grandpa too. The red hair looked joking just now, unable to believe that a level 9 expert could easily do so. Was beaten until a leader fell face down like that. The first time the two saw a top-notch match with such overwhelming potential, they couldn't help but exclaim that it was great. Tiutu didn't die, he just felt his head was a bit dizzy. The little leopard ran out to help the old man and heard him ask Fanghu, "What did you do to provoke such a master?" He stammered in confusion, "I don't know. He looks like just a normal store owner, how do you know?" Waiting for him to leave and return, Tabin calmly walked over and asked, "What's wrong? Now, can you calm down and listen to what others have to say?" Professor Su next to him nodded repeatedly like a chicken pecking at rice. Tabin didn't even ask him to pay attention, turning around to ask if he was the instructor of Class 4. It's such an honor to be asked by an expert. Professor Su clasped his hands and smiled professionally. "Hi, let me explain this." He did not dare to say anything when the students in the area were beaten out, but the history professor called a guy called Senior Tiu, and I took the position of the instructor to guarantee it. This incident was indeed caused by Mr. Tiu hitting someone first. The bosses just saw the discontent and came to help. This student is the litigant. Mr. Tiu also wanted to persuade me to avenge him, but I tried to dissuade him. Tiu too was so angry that he raised his eyebrows and called Tiu Fenghu's name. Is this the kind of bullying you're talking about? Why is it so strange? Seeing that things had come to this, everyone turned their backs to him. Tiu Fenghu lowered himself to his knees, grabbed the hem of his grandfather's shirt, and begged him. Admit I was wrong. I was wrong. I didn't mean to deceive you. I don't dare anymore. If it was just a matter between grandfather and grandson, perhaps Tiu too would have let it go. After all, he was just a teenager. But now his face was dark, and his 100 years of cultivation was almost destroyed by this kid here. To express his anger and show to Bin that he really knew right from wrong, Tiu too called someone to take him home to enjoy the family's dharma immediately and keep him warm. Breaking his leg and banishing him for 5 years to avoid going out all day causing trouble, Tiu Fenghu did not expect that one moment of impulsiveness would lead to 5 years of impulsive behavior. He did not expect that one moment of stupidity would be punished so severely. The two of them carried both of their hands while trying to shout, "Grandpa too, I know it's wrong." Chasing this cub earned him so much respect. Tiu too approached to Bin, bowed down, and sincerely apologized to the master in front of him. It was because the old man did not teach him well and had offended many people. "May I ask what your great name is?" The old man was willing to compensate him a large amount of money. The group of students who had been watching were making noise in one corner. The 100-year-old man actually called the boss sir. It's true that I didn't expect that the incomparable young master would come to this day, old and not wise, but no matter how big or small, he will wake up. Approaching the old man, he whispered that my name is Tu, but think about other things yourself. But the suggestion that Bin gave was too little, not to mention that he also came from another place smaller than this city. Of course, Tiu Tu didn't dare raise his head to ask. His head was spinning and he couldn't remember which of the big families had the last name Tu. Looking at the young man calmly passing by him, suddenly the word Tu flashed in Lao's old head. If the Tu family came from somewhere else, could it be Bin from the Longjiang city base? The old man kept silent about his doubts, while Bin just stared at the screen reporting that the progress of completing the task was currently 47/100ths. Congratulations on his rising reputation. He still has more than half the journey to go. It looks like the next few days will be busy at Thien Long Academy. There were already a lot of people waiting for Bin below. As soon as they saw him approaching, there were sounds of sincere gratitude. If the boss wasn't here today, if he didn't come forward to help, I don't know how much more the people in this neighborhood would have been bullied. He smiled faintly. Our store's duty is to ensure the safety of customers. If you want to thank me, please come and support me often. When everyone's strength gets stronger, no one will dare to look down on you anymore. And it's true that Bin's stores always seem to be in trouble, always opening with a punch and a kick before operating normally. The local people were very happy and applauded the boss for being right. Moreover, the items in Bin's shop are all free money. His prices are locked by the store system so he can't sell them for free, so they are affordable for ordinary people. The senior in the other class was very excited, constantly asking Boss Hua, "Is your store short of staff? Please let me help." How could it be without Trung Lin Dong's arm? Despite his enthusiasm, Bin didn't care. The two young shopkeepers were already having a headache. He couldn't hire any more workers, so he had to refuse everyone on the grounds that it was inconvenient for him to make friends alone. Oh, what a pity. Seeing the two young people sigh, Bin had no choice but to say that if something needed to go out, I would call them to come to the store to help. So the two immediately brightened up. Just standing one foot in the store was enough to be happy. The next day, when the shop opened, there was a suitcase filled with gold in 4 digits displayed for owner Hua to see. Who else but Mr. Su is smiling and flattering, saying that this is a bit of our intention, hoping that Boss Hua will forgive the misunderstanding. Old Tiu Tu stood behind him, stroking his silver beard and smiling, reporting to himself that he had taught Tiu Fenghu that group again, but the response to that enthusiasm was just an indifferent turn of the head from Bin. He's very busy and doesn't have time. Buying things can come and go, and he doesn't have time to gossip. Leaving 2 people, one old and one young, standing bewildered, wondering if this boss doesn't like gold. What a fool, money is fleeting, girls are air. I just saw him smiling comfortably at the students who needed to buy food for their pets, so he waved his hand and called them here so I can show you this. Just getting the goods back yesterday, Tabin summoned something that looked like ginseng, sparkling with purple and pink colors. The head part resembles an open dragon's mouth. Even at a glance, you can see that it is a high-end product. It looks so beautiful, but the students don't know what it is. Why isn't this in the textbook? They were about to ask what kind of food this was. Tiny Trung Lindong jumped in and exclaimed. This thing is surrounded by death energy. The color is like copper. The ginseng tail is like a dragon's beard. It must be Tu Van Thien Long ginseng. As soon as they heard her comment, Master Su and Mr. Tu thought they were going to fight in the clear sky. Of course these two people knew what Tu Van Thien Long Sam was, but they heard that it was a rare food for extinct pets. It's truly unbelievable for thousands of years in this small shop. Trung Lindong stared at the ginseng and asked the owner if he sold this. Su Bin sold it. 330,000 crystal coins were sold without having to pay the price. As soon as the words were on the tip of his lips, a loud scream made Trung Lindong startled. At some point, a troublesome duo appeared behind them, putting their hands on her shoulders to stop the girl from speaking. Old Tu quickly said that he wanted to buy this ginseng root, but was immediately rebuffed by the historian next to him. These two men looked like they were about to fight over the ginseng, so Tabin had to push Trung Lindong first, avoid them, calling out to get in line. There's a before and there's an after. Please come back early tomorrow. Master Su couldn't see it. Something so precious would come tomorrow and only that belt would be left, so what are you waiting for? I'm afraid this is the only chance I'll see in my entire life, and the old man next to me can also see the danger. Old but not giving anything to the young, Tiu Tu stepped straight up and reminded him to quickly sell it to the old man. I was willing to use half a year's profit from the family's listed corporation in exchange. Previously, we were still on the same side, but now Mr. Su also voiced his disapproval. How could he ask someone to sell it every half a year? I am willing to use the right to use the Advanced Research Institute under my name for 5 years in exchange for this ginseng root. The story of the two generals fighting over the ginseng root soon made the students whisper. TUT Group is the leading enterprise in this city. Its half-year revenue is at least 100 million. Oh my goodness, you're so generous, as befits the TU family. But the research institute under the name of the 4th grade instructor is not the same. That research institute was built according to the strict requirements of level 9 cultivators, equipped with the most advanced equipment in the city. I was satisfied with just being able to use it for a day. Tabin crossed his arms and looked seriously at these two men. Why did they spend so much money? The two people who bought it couldn't do anything to pay such a high price. The historian smirked and explained that if he promoted and marketed the relationships he had, countless people would come to visit the ginseng tree that has been extinct for thousands of years. Even people in the training association have to respect me 3 times. Becoming the top figure in the training world is not a far-fetched matter anymore. Tu didn't let him take all the talking. He immediately intervened and said that he would fully develop its commercial value and build tens of billions of projects. When the time comes, there will be no shortage of dividends for Mr. Tu. He knew that Trung Lin's money was not equal, his relationships were not equal, but he still glanced over and asked what this girl had. Frowning with self-deprecation, she mumbled that she couldn't give her boss so many benefits. But Tabin still wanted to hear, so Lin Dong excitedly asked him if he had ever heard of the ancient dragon clan called Tu Huyat Thien Long. There were many training masters who wanted to restore true inherited pet skills with the bloodline of Thien Long purple blood, but because the materials were extremely scarce, they were forced to stop. And this purple cloud Thien Long ginseng is the favorite food of that pet species. If I have this food, I can make research breakthroughs, and can even push the entire research field further. So there are many situations where lack of resources affects the development of training techniques? The girl nodded, sadly answering yes, a lot. Nearly all training techniques related to ancient times cannot be excavated effectively because the wild areas are too dangerous and difficult to access, so the speed of development is very slow or stagnant. Teacher Su knew about this. Ben sighed and continued, "It is true that there is research that the fighting power of ancient pet beasts is much higher than that of Lambtin's current pet beasts. But restoring it is extremely difficult, because just relying on the only existing products basically won't change anything. If you don't do it well, it will be a waste of money, just like a waste of money on a crowded sea." Aha! Tabin caught the meaning of Teacher Su's words, then smiled and asked who said this was the only product. "Wait for me a moment, now I'll show it to you guys." Without waiting for the crowd to answer, Tabin went to the green wooden door and opened it to go inside. A few people still hadn't fully digested what the boss said. They were dumbfounded and didn't understand what Tabin wanted to bring out. Trung Lindong noticed that Mr. Tu has always called him Boss Tu, not Boss Hua, so it's Tu Kwang, not Hua Kwang. The crowd patiently waited for Tabin outside for 30 minutes. Suddenly, a huge stream of energy was emitted from inside, accompanied by sizzling sounds as if there was high voltage running inside. Tabin calmly walked out with both hands busy, each holding a 2 Vantine long ginseng, telling me I was done. Old Tu and Teacher Su looked as if their eyes were flying out, screaming loudly about something. As if to add to the surprise of the two men and nephews, Tabin gave each person his own route, so everyone paid separately so there would be no fighting. Master Su awkwardly ran over and wanted to immediately grab the ginseng root as if he was afraid that Tabin would hold it too tightly and hurt it. Next to Tiu Tu also has the same look. Can't that 1,000-year-old ginseng be held like a bunch of spinach? These two people looked so careless. Tabin calmly said to rest assured, "These things are not that precious, I still have a lot in my pocket." What he said made everyone stiffen with glue, their mouths opened wide. Why did they repeat it so many times? Only Trung Lindong noticed that his shirt was stained and asked from the other side why he was bleeding so much. "Are you okay?" Only now did he notice that there were some dark red stains on his shirt, but he just explained that it was someone else's blood and it was fine. Still standing as if waiting to be planted, but because he was so surprised, Master Su had to whisper and ask Tiu Tu next to this person. What kind of family background did he have to have so many top products in his hands? Who knows, living 100 years like Tiu Tu would not even know how confusing it would be to encounter this scene. Adding to his calm look, as soon as he saw Trung Lindong telling him to let me clean up the blood, he flew over and raised his 5-fingered hand screaming, let me. Teacher Su wanted to rush over but couldn't make it in time. He had to stand there shamelessly cursing the old fox. People were standing around. What were they doing? Tiu Tu's black eyes glanced at him with contempt, and even snorted coldly, looking extremely prestigious. Then without saying a word, he knelt down and used his white sleeve to wipe Tabin's shoes. "Don't say it's embarrassing, just say it's perverted. Hey boss, your shoes are dirty, let the old man clean them for you." Trung Lindong and Tabin both found this old man truly perverted. For the first time, he seemed truly confused, telling Tiu Tu to quickly stand up so that others wouldn't misunderstand. "The money is just for porridge, nothing more. By the way, it comes with the benefits he mentioned." With a benevolent face, Tiu Tu immediately agreed, followed by Teacher Su's screams. "I'm afraid he's paying so much attention to that perverted old man that he's forgotten about himself." He summoned several green, red, purple, and yellow things to his hand, as if he had just remembered them, and told Trung Lindong, "There are other pet foods too. Can you see if there's anything you can use? Look at this diligent little guy and read the name right away. It's the Bo de Balu grass, the Jade Dragon 7-leaf orchid, and the Ghost Level Soul grass. These are all extinct pet food. If you know so much, do you want to buy it? If you want, why not?" But Trung Lindong is not a rich man, so he bowed his head and said in a low voice, "Let's do it next time. A single tuber of Vantine Long Sam has already cost a year's wages." Teacher Su stood next to him, tapping the clock, mocking Trung, who used to be a famous trainer. "I heard that people above love research and are not interested in doing business. Nowadays, they can't even buy resources or what? It really makes people feel sorry. This name is indeed a mixed bag. but the thing that interests Tabin more is the system that pops up to warn the host that he is taking advantage of the store to receive more money. Not knowing this system too well, Tabin of course did nothing illegal. He waved his hand at Trung Lindong, suddenly called Tiu Lao and teacher Su to guide her, and convey all the benefits you guys just told her. Trung Lindong suddenly became the heir, just like Cinderella received the whole castle, nervously pointing at herself and stammering, her shocked expression no different from Su Hao Kai and Tu Tiu. Tabin reiterated again, is there any problem with the money and house given to Trung Lindong for the purchase of research materials and implementation fees? I don't understand why Tabin could give away such a large amount of property. Of course Tu Tiu was unhappy, interrupting and advising. If these pet foods are given to this old man, with the help of our Tiu family, it is guaranteed that Mr. Tu will be at the top of the list of the richest people in the world within just 1 year. The girl timidly folded her hands and agreed. She couldn't let herself receive such a generous sum of money for nothing. Was it worth it? Before Tabin could say more, the system suddenly issued a warning, suspecting the host of using the agent to receive more outside financial resources. It also cunningly added, don't dream of tricking this system. Please. Realizing the anger burning in his heart, Tabin nonchalantly asked since when was money used to measure whether a person is valuable or not. The Shao family's relatives were raised by a wealthy family and only wanted to monopolize the ability to make money, and in the eyes of that advisor, it was all about their position of power. Doesn't sympathize with the difficult circumstances of the students of the local temple class at all, and even wants to rely on the strong to bully the weak. The more he speaks, the more he screams fire, with a straight face and still acting, is your status worthy of yours? Well, that's exactly what the boss said. His indifferent expression disappeared, ready to spray rain in the people's faces so that neither of them dared to argue. Looking at the magnanimity, Tiu too looked overbearing and imposing. Head on the neck of the poor. Now that Tabin scolded him to the point of being speechless, the classmates were very excited. Congratulations to the boss and all. Some people couldn't hold back their tears. All the anger caused by being at the bottom of society finally had someone to help them out. Even the seniors in the local class were laughing. Tabin looked like a handsome guy. One abstains from 9 good deeds. One old and one middle-aged switches to the lunar regime, following everyone in praising this store owner who values righteousness more than fame and fortune, truly different from ordinary people. Proudly laughing and trying not to make Tabin crazy. As long as the owner sells pet food, that's fine, but in fact, I can be a good person. The same goes for the old man. The old man can respect the old, love the young, and help those in need. It sounded like a friendly beauty queen final speech. Tabin sighed in boredom, wondering if these two old men thought he didn't know anything. But he doesn't accept it. No matter how many dividends the system has, Tabin cannot convert them into personal money to spend. They are just a bunch of jackfruit leaves falling in the yard. Moreover, from the beginning, high-quality pet food rarely had a supply to sell on the market, and that old man named Tiu still wanted to monopolize his sales. After cursing, Tabin silently called the system to listen. Investing in Trung Lindong can bring private pet food to the public and expand the market. The second thing is to unlock pet skills into new training techniques. The death training method we use is too dependent on the system's potential. You also need to add other cultivation methods to increase your fighting power. Third, it is clear that Trung Lindong's research has also been developed into a thesis. At that time, we only need to read the name to be able to solve the requirements for writing a thesis to become a genuine training teacher. The system silently listened to him say that this was killing 3 birds with 1 stone, all for the sake of cultivating the strongest pet beast. Let me ask again, where do people mean they need an agent? Just like that, everything was arranged according to Tabin's wishes. The next day, Thien Long Academy was again full of students. Inside Thien 2's 8th grade class, there were only a few people sitting and talking during break time. Trung Lindong and her friend appeared at the door of the classroom. When she heard her friend ask if she should go to the dormitory to get things first, she said no. Anyway, there was a place to sleep before taking the class division test. There was no need to go back and sign. What do dormitories do? Feng Jiak Luong was laughing loudly. When he saw Trung Lindong walk in, he immediately ignored what his friend was saying. I mumbled that I have a better game to play. He shrugged and stood down, blocking Trung Lindong's face, jokingly saying, "Isn't this a super busy classmate?" With half a glance, he knew that Feng Luong wanted to make trouble with him. Lindong, with a cold face, briefly asked to give way. However, his teasing nature could not be given up so easily. He rushed closer to Trung Lindong, looked down at the girl who was only as tall as his chest, and scolded her. The class split test is coming, and if you don't review, don't say you can't stand the pain so you quit. This place doesn't welcome weak-willed brats. You better go back to the divinity class. I'm about to speak up for you because Trung Lindong has always been scared to the point of cowering in front of bullies, just one sentence from them. It also made her day less fun. But strangely, Trung Lindong had no strange expression on his face today, coldly walking past Jiat Luong, looking at him as if he were nothing more than an inanimate table. Continuing back to my desk, I put my books in my bag. Trung Lindong planned to pack up all his belongings and leave the classroom for a long day, so he needed to arrange a bit. His friend covered his mouth and giggled. Jiat Luong became even more embarrassed when his friend teased him and was coldly ignored. Angry and unable to bear the fact that he was being looked down upon, Jiat Luong approached and snatched the book from Trung Lindong's hand, holding it up high so that she could not reach it. Knowing that his height advantage made it impossible for the girl to get it, Jiat Luong coldly called out, "Are you deaf? I'm talking to you." Seeing that the situation was getting more and more outrageous, the red-haired girl tried to intervene. But this guy with hair like two Diana wings kept screaming, adding fuel to the fire. Hey, you're so good. You told me to go talk to the girl and you did it right away. I really want to punch you in the mouth to shut up. Feng Jiat Luong saw Lindong trying several times but could not catch them with the book in his hand. He laughed even more happily and forced her to admit she was wrong. In the past, your forte was admitting mistakes. Every time he saw that other hand was about to touch the book, he would step back, expecting to see Trung Lindong's self-pity that made him burst into tears like so many times. Suddenly, the huge guard towered over Feng Jiat Luong, snatching the book from his hand without saying a word. Before he could understand what was happening, that person picked up Jiat Luong's collar like he was carrying a dog's collar. Just in time to realize that this guy was the bodyguard of the 8th grade counselor Thien Tu, he threw Jiat Luong to the ground and fell on his butt, easily snatching the book back in his hand. Looking at Trung Lindong's expression, it seemed like she didn't know why the bodyguard appeared here. He didn't explain much, gave the book back to the little girl, told her not to pay attention to what they did. Let's go. Seeing Trung Lindong thanking the other person, with an expression that was not strange, Feng Jiat Luong lay down on the ground in a state of confusion, thinking as if the world had just turned upside down, ignoring his friend calling in his ear. It's really spicy, the two of them don't dare to act rashly, they can only whisper to each other. Strange, why did Advisor Din's bodyguard protect Trung Lindong? Suddenly, Feng Jiat Luong spoke up as if he knew very well. I knew immediately that there must be something shady between that brat and the advisor. It's the type of cousins who rely on each other. It's fair to think, their dirty heads thought that this would suit Trung Lindong's completely changed style, so it turns out they have support? Go, follow them and take some pictures, to see how I handle them. Soon the two of them followed Trung Lindong and his bodyguard to a scientific research building. Isn't that a consultant-level research room? Why did Trung Lindong go in there? With a cruel smile on his face as if he was sure of his thoughts, Jiat Luong asked his friend to tiptoe inside with him. Surely Trung Lindong was there selling flowers and spelling books, so go look for some photos. Who would have thought that inside was indeed a research hall full of modern equipment, and on the other side of the wall was the shadow of a giant pet beast. Inside was unbelievably crowded, everyone was busy walking around. As soon as she saw Trung Lindong, a Dia 2 classmate happily came out to greet her. Guess there's something wrong with that look on his face. As soon as I asked him, he told me everything. When I was trying to whiten his teeth, I saw his claws bleeding. I asked him to help me, but I don't know why. When Feng Jiat Luong saw that scene, he was very surprised. Looking around, he discovered that there were many local students here. Trung Lin Dong, who hadn't put his bag away yet, came over to look and asked if you fed him a lot of psychic grass and forgot to stroke his veins. Hearing the confirmation, Trung Lin Dong quickly treated the wound on the animal's claw and explained to him how to do it. It seems like the two of you have been here for a long time. Feng Jiak Luang's accomplice was really surprised. This is a place where advisors use for high-level research, but how dare these guys use it for basic training? Judging by the number of clicks on the clock, this group probably lacks resources and illegally embezzled school property. Let me record it and give it to the school to handle. The guard suddenly grabbed Jiat Luang's arm as he was about to send information to the school. Seeing his face, he immediately looked unhappy. There was no one else but these two. Hey brother, what are you doing? Calm down and look, that group of local people illegally occupied the research room. I didn't understand what this guy said. A few seconds later he laughed haha. The noise made Trung Lin Dong come out to investigate. Just looking at the blonde-haired guy's face made me feel uncomfortable. But he saw her as if he had caught a thief, thinking he had caught someone from the local class illegally occupying the research room. I've taken pictures of everything. Stealing counselor-grade equipment is a serious crime. If you don't want to be suspended from school, I advise you to do as I say. Trung Lin Dong replied, preventing this guy from continuing to talk nonsense. She clicked on the watch on her hand and briefly told him to look for himself. It was to transfer the right to use Su Hao Tri's Special Research Institute to Trung Lin Dong, and there was also an agreement to donate Tu2's training resources to her. It was obvious that he could read the words, but Feng Jiak Luang kept looking puzzled. The research institute was given by the 4th grade advisor, and the money to buy materials was paid by the Tu family? Your friend doesn't want to argue with this group of people anymore, so go ahead and call Dong Dong to come with you. We still have to restart the research on Purple Blood Thien Long. When she mentioned Purple Blood Thien Long, she smiled, but those words about the project reached the ears of the two gods, making them stunned. The research was successful, even without having to participate in the class division test. It was possible no matter what. A group of advisors rushed to steal people to join their side, so this was the reason he didn't go to class. Wow, the giant snail gently moved its forelimbs to greet the person in front of him. He was very excited. He reached out his hand and was caught by it, even more delighted, like he was playing with a giant pet. The giant is a pet that has been trained by the octopus training technique of the young man wearing glasses standing in front, explaining to the audience below that the snail possesses greater strength and resistance. Very much original. Under the crackling flashlight, he just looked at the 3 people in uniform in front of him nimbly invite those who are interested in investing and learning to come and take a closer look. The 3 people wearing the same uniform mumbled the characteristics they had just heard. They had a large body and could hold great strength. They were quite balanced and didn't have any immediate problems. This snail is also emotionally stable, thinking that training is quite successful. Hearing such positive comments, the introducer was very happy. Scratching his head, he thanked the judge for praising his training techniques. How many points can I get? All 3 eyeboards turned around at the same time to show him the judge's score, and kindly reminded him that this was the highest score he could give. So is that really high? 2 tables get 1 point each. The middle table adds 1 consolation point, which is 2. No wonder why people are so shocked that their eyes are wide open. How can they say it's high but only get 2 points? The headline is so disgusting. The judge ignored that shock, turned around and walked away to another booth, causing him to sweat profusely and call after him, was there a mistake or not? But with that kind of praise, it gets 1 to 2 points for my mother. Die, brother. Coldly turning around, one of the judges explained that this training method had been around for 100 years. Except for having a little more pragmatism, there's nothing else to gain, no creativity and development at all. So you want a higher score? Let's say it again and again, this is the Teacher Training Congress, where the elites of the entire city's training industry gather. There is no room left over for the corrupt. This stall has no prospect of the judge going somewhere else. For fear that there won't be something better, you'll have to try to score something you don't like. On the big screen, the MC was showing off her armpit whiter than some people's future, excitedly announcing that the 3-yearly moment that every trainer looks forward to has arrived. The Master Training Congress has begun. This year we come to the top 5 Thien Long Academy in Tan Quang Base City. As soon as the introduction ended, on a high chair that was as high as the clouds, there were 2 people sitting silently waiting for the procedure to be completed so they could raise their hands to greet. Principal of Thien Long Academy bought a rhino horn-style beard that must have taken 3 hours of grooming before coming here. He gently raised his hand to express his honor when the city's top talents were all gathered at his place. Wishing everyone can develop their full potential, receive high rankings and find investors. At the same time, I also thank the old man. Despite being busy with thousands of things, he still personally came here. If you don't come in person, you'll have to stay at home. The deputy head of the training association stroked his long, untangled white beard, calmed down, and as usual, the competition would always be judged by a judge. People with excellent achievements, in addition to receiving rewards from the Congress, also receive the status to join the association and receive training from the association. Elder Bach's words made the onlookers below bewildered. Do you know what a great opportunity it is to be trained into the guild? The selected students from past to present have almost all become top level 9 instructors. Last time, there was a person who, even though he was only 19 years old, had already reached level 8. Huzzah! The sound of admiration rang out in the crowd. Who wouldn't want to join the Teacher Training Association? But that's like a dream that not everyone can dream of. Many rich people can't even carry piles of money to the gate. If they could teach everything for free, it would be like going to the market and anyone who comes can get it. On another side of the yard, lower than the stage of Old Bach and Principal Trong Thien Long, is a row of 8 chairs waiting for someone to sit. The instructor's jade card with his dirty hand must have the word heaven above it to enter. There were still people standing guard at the gate, but Su Hao Tri was already familiar with the procedures at this place. After all, he had participated for many years, so it was no longer surprising. As soon as the instructor sat down, he asked if he could spot anyone with potential. It's a pity that this year, no one outstanding was picked up by the Teacher Training Association right from the start. There was a small murmur of discontent in the row of golden chairs. The group of elders in that group always targeted the most talented person to take it away. If they didn't act quickly, they would only have the belt left. Everyone joined in and laughed heartily. If they could get the best seeds to become disciples, the principal might even lose some of his integrity and call the instructor to confide in him to ask for talent. Tabin quietly went inside, walked around from back to front, heard them laughing and talking. This year, if we lose an excellent competitor, our performance will definitely be higher. While chatting happily, the chair supporting each row suddenly had someone calmly sitting in it. Who else but Tabin, dressed in all black, face up to the sky, sat down ignoring the people next to him, not even bothering to say hello. His arrogant attitude made people stir. Who is that young man? How dare you sit in the position of a level 9 instructor? Or is it a guest invited by the association, but at such a young age he already has the ability to coach level 9? Tu Hao Tri at this point just opened his mouth and smiled, not bothering to discuss it because he knew the guest too well. I was amused thinking that as long as Tabin was sitting there, that group of useless people would continue to wander around trying to get to the store to give them their resources. Wherever the judge went, there was chaos. Things were scattered on the ground, faces were blank, smiles were confused and trying to explain. My optical concealment beast technique only reached a maximum of 3 points. 3 points is 1 point more than the other house. This guy is really greedy, causing the judge to leave a comment. Applying invisibility paint on a pet's body is also called a pet skill. What's the use of an invisible beast that only needs to be detected using your spiritual energy? It's just that stealth is very effective in investigating in the wilderness, so if there's a future, I should give it 3 points. Do it one more time, you've passed the point. The judge's verdict is no different from an eye-opening conclusion. The investor turned away without regret and pretended to sigh that if the judge said so, I would decide to withdraw capital from this project. The group of beastmen didn't have anything to show off. Seeing this scene, they clicked their tongues and discussed this period. The score was really harsh. Up to now, no one has scored more than 6 points. This time, there was a teacher observing the class. Old Bach personally supervised the trick that no one dared to use a few years ago, so you understand how strict this year is. The judge glanced with sharp eyes at the two talkative guys with deep voices. Do you guys want to score? By the time the conference ends, anyone without points will be considered to have given up. Saying bad things about someone's back and being caught in battle made the two young men flustered like a dog wagging its tail, hastily telling the judge to go away first, since they didn't invite anyone to come and watch. Since the judge has no respect for anything, while walking and speaking, what a disappointing bunch. Is it possible that there is no one who is honest? It's me, I'm here. At the end of the aisle, a small figure raised his hand. He looked 2 heads shorter than anyone else but spoke loudly. The whole hall turned their eyes to Trung Lin Dong with determined eyes. Invited the judge to come to his place to consider. The judge's eyes softened, he praised her courage and immediately followed. Who are these free gods who have the opportunity to voice their doubts? Dare to show your head at this time, you must be mentally retarded. Cursing people was so curious that he couldn't stand it. A few young men started walking behind the judge and followed Trung Lin Dong, gradually falling out of the center of the Congress. After walking for a while, the people in this place seemed like a rustic countryside. Even the exhibition hall in this place lacked electric light, and there was no sense of science and technology at all. To put it bluntly, compared to the exhibition hall of the gossip crowd in the central area, this place is no different from a slum, so what can you do if you choose this ragged place? That's why dogs often correct that dogs don't bite, but the judge was a bit unhappy when he heard that. Looking straight at the girl in front of him, he said frankly, if you want to get a high score thanks to pity, then give up quickly. How could they give up? Trung Lin Dong led them to the last stall of the aisle, smiling and pointing towards the red-haired girl who was carrying a box towards the mini green dragon on the wooden shelf. Reaching out to pick up a bottle of purple solution with no label, Tom thought Trung Lin Dong would read the chemistry lesson for everyone to guess what was in there. But she only took it out to cause a little curiosity. At least the purple light of that thing also made the judge curious to know more about what it was. Was it purple blood? What are you planning to use that for? Eyes focused on the test tube, Trung Lin Dong unscrewed the stopper. A thin stream of fluttering purple smoke flew from the mouth of the tube, and poured the entire test tube into the mouth of the waiting green dragon. Trung Lin Dong introduced this as a level 4 dragon that has never undergone any training. Pouring the solution is just the first step. The two girls put on their training gloves, nodded and looked at each other, ready to perform the next step. The day when the dragon was radiating purple light, the space around it echoed with rustling sounds like thunder. The two girls poured energy into their gloved hands. Chanting in unison, Dragon blood breaks vein dharma. The judge did not say anything, but his eyes opened a little wider and focused on watching. Behind him, a few little guys explained to themselves, wondering what would happen after absorbing that bottle of blood. The lovely green dragon from before was baring its fangs and claws, its fur standing up looking fierce like a little devil. The majestic dragon's silhouette and colors suddenly appeared behind. The dull roar in the air seemed to spread to the sky, from there shining down a huge column of purple light, bouncing straight down on the dragon's area. When you see the oppression to the point that those standing nearby cannot stand it anymore and hold their heads and scream, their heads want to explode. It was a premonition that something terrible was awakening, and the judge decided that even if he had to resist fiercely, he still had to try to keep his eyes open. Even the white old man was surprised when he saw the purple dragon's completely transformed form before his eyes. The purple color of the Asian dragon god is supplemented by a pair of angel wings behind it. This majesty is not from the blood of the heavenly dragon, a pet beast that became extinct 9,000 years ago. The strange thing was, two Huyat thin longs suddenly faded gradually and then dispersed into cool purple spots of light in the air. The judge looked dumbfounded. Why is this happening? They weren't the only ones who saw it. The afterimage of the dragon that went extinct 9,000 years ago entered the field of view of everyone on display. At that time, the image was also reported live on large screens in the area. Now even the MC herself wonders if she's dizzy? The two of them did what they just did, but they remained calm, unaware that they had just caused a stir. Trung Lindong also urged his friend to quickly record the data. The actual difference is too different from the imagination. This dragon just completely changed color, growing long purple-pink wings as if it were a combination of a unicorn and a dragon, but the size was not much different. The group of people asked each other in bewilderment. The two little kids from 8th grade Theme 2 also stood dumbfounded in the crowd. The blonde guy was quicker to speak up and criticize. It seemed like the method of training dragon blood to cut the veins was just an illusion. It seems that no matter how good Trung Lindong is, it doesn't produce much different results. Your failure is our joy. Two young men who are looking forward to this year's conference standards will give Trung Lindong's group a low score to shame themselves. It's a shame, so many people coming here, it's like publicly humiliating themselves. But to her surprise, the Thien Long School's instructors suddenly jostled each other and ran to call someone to rewind the scene right away. I want to see whose upbringing it was just now. Get out, teacher, the confusion is scary. No one will give up to the other, insisting on competing for a seat so that I can go first. Every moment there is chaos. The group of angels looked at everyone in confusion. The camera switched to a close-up of Trung Lindong, confused as to why she became the female lead. When she heard the MC say that all the instructors at Thien Long Academy were extremely interested in this player, she realized that her failed test product was received much more intensely than expected. Trung Lindong, in front of the audience, is just a strange girl, with nothing outstanding other than being a student at Thien Long Academy. This face was quite familiar because the students of Thien 2 8th class were preparing to be divided into classes. Soon, a teacher recognized them but was confused. Why did no one see Trung Lindong's talent before? Could it be that Mr. Din hid the treasure carefully? They didn't step on each other anymore. Each looked at their school's information system to see who Trung Lindong was. 17 years old is a level 6 training teacher. Besides her measurements, interests, and research methods that are quite similar to other students, to be honest, this girl has nothing outstanding until today. So the teachers began to excitedly move on to the next stage, recruiting him to join their team. Join my sect, my friend. I have a whole warehouse of ancient books under my name that Thien Long Library doesn't have. You can use them freely. Their tricks are quite similar. One uses the library. The other has an esoteric training method to seduce the child, but none of them have openly declared that the teacher will pass it all on to the child. Billions of other cool things like fruitcakes and afternoon tea have all been added to the list of cool things. While trying to recruit Trung Lindong from the sky, suddenly two beams of light, one green, one yellow, interrupted the instructor's words. Starting later but arriving first to make it easier was Lao Bok, Vice President of the Nutrition Training Association and Principal of Thien Long Academy. This was more than anyone could imagine. Even the MC realized that after two big characters came here, it was difficult to give a chance to others. The school principal was not polite at all, turned around, raised his eyebrows and asked the vice president where he was going in such a hurry, threw a rock, and ran into a rope. Bok Lao smiled widely under his white eyebrows, pretending to say that my body was too weak, so it was nothing more than a little exercise. Principal, your body is strong but inside you are as weak as this old man? You always speak carelessly. The principal is not a child either. With just a glance, he realized that old Bok wanted to rob someone, and without any hesitation told him not to act evil. Bok Lao was caught in the act and didn't feel embarrassed, but he opened his mouth and laughed. Had he been discovered? Unexpectedly, the opponent was willing to admit that he was aiming for Trung Lindong. That. The principal cursed slyly. Can't let delicious food fall into this old man's hands. The principal gently chanted, teleportation, the power of moving heaven. His eyes still clearly showed a smile, but Bok Lao's response could be heard clearly. It was time to fight to win, so there was nothing to fear. Come out here for the level 9 secret skill, earth moving. The two men rushed across the sky, landing right in front of the exhibition area with a loud noise like two stars falling at the same time. It was really confusing, not to mention fighting. Always keep it hot. Yet the two elders used their flying bodies to hover in front of the Trung Lindong group, bluntly waving their hands for the others to leave. The judge also retreated because the deputy association was present. Bak Lao stroked his beard and gently asked the two young girls if they could show him the pet beast they had just trained. Trung Lindong has recently met many familiar people with big names, so he replied that of course it was okay. The girl standing next to her first time seeing Bak Lao couldn't help but tremble. Her future had really come true. The crowd turned from surprise to admiration. Bak Lao directly came to watch and grade, no different from special treatment for geniuses. However, Bak Lao's standards are even stricter than those of the supervisors. If there are problems, they will definitely be criticized more fiercely. This pink dragon unicorn looks mischievous, looking at the old man who keeps cackling. Bak Lao mumbled, according to legend, the Thien Long is the ancestor of 10,000 dragons, the leader of all dragons in this world. The most elite in the dragon bloodline. Even the golden dragon ranked first in the blue star level dragon rankings cannot compare with it. It was extinct 9,000 years ago. Of course Bak Lao has never seen it with his own eyes. But considering the wings carrying vague purple electric rays, the transparent scales containing the beam full of dragon energy here are not bad. These eyes radiate a royal aura. There is no doubt that this dragon beast is indeed the bloodline of the purple blood heavenly dragon that has been successfully merged. This method greatly improves the dragon beast's bloodline limit, making it easier for the dragon beast's strategy to be hindered, so it can easily break through. Although there are still some shortcomings, there is no doubt about this achievement. I give it a score of 9.5 points. The principal smiled and agreed, as expected of the talented people our school has produced. The MC waited a long time before speaking admiringly. 9.5 was the highest score in the entire school this time. Bak Lao extended his hand towards Trung Lindong, inviting her to come with him. With the full support of the Teacher Training Association and my teachings, she can definitely become a brilliant gift in the teacher training world. How could the principal let the old man rob the person in front of him? He rushed forward and shouted to stop him. You were trained by our school, so it's right to stay at Kong Kong School. Come to me, I can give you the best resources in the whole school. Instructors can do anything you want, you can research whatever you want. These were indeed two extremely high quality and sincere calls. There were voices of discontent in the audience. Just to attract that girl, the two of them did not hesitate at any cost. This is definitely the principal's highest remuneration, but putting yourself in Trung Lindong's position is hard to imagine. Being inherited by Old Man Bak is very attractive. Learning one or two of his secret techniques is enough to set one's own position apart in the world of master trainers. The two young men of grade 8, Thien 2, knew how to keep their mouths shut and did not criticize Trung Lindong anymore. That girl has really turned from a sparrow into a phoenix. If I could turn back time, I would definitely have to have a good relationship with that person. Trung Lindong was silent for a while as if thinking, then gently called Old Bak. The principal did a lot of work for both of them, thinking she had made up her mind in such a quick time. Eyes full of determination, looking straight ahead, Trung Lindong said yes, she had made a choice. The whole area was silent. Everyone was curious about who Trung Lindong would choose to sponsor on the path to becoming the golden hand in the village of raising pets. The person who guesses the principal wins more easily. The power in his hands is not a toy that can be easily rejected. But there are also people who believe that Old Bak will win, because the more you see him after more than 10 years of being his true disciple,